kind of night where the city's lights glistened off the wet pavement and the streets bustled with the usual hurried pace of life. Barron Trump, alongside his mother Melania Trump, decided to seek warmth and comfort in a quiet but popular restaurant they frequented. Inside, the atmosphere was cozy, with soft golden lights casting shadows across the elegant decor. The smell of freshly baked bread mixed with the aroma of hot soups and grilled meats. Barron, now growing into a young man, sat across from his mother at a table by the window. They chatted about the day's events, and Barron listened attentively as Melania shared stories from her charity work and the people she'd met. However, Barron's attention soon drifted. His eyes wandered out the window where the rain was coming down in heavy sheets. Across the street, he noticed an elderly man sitting on the sidewalk. The man's clothes were soaked through, and he held a piece of cardboard, hastily written with a message that read, "Praying for a meal." Barron's heart sank. He could see the man shivering in the cold, and something deep inside him stirred. He put down his spoon and pushed his plate aside, his thoughts consumed by the sight of the elderly man. His eyes never left the figure sitting on the wet ground, looking lost and alone. After a long pause, Barron looked up at his mother with an intense gaze. "Mom," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "We have to help him." Melania looked out the window, following her son's line of sight. Her eyes softened when she saw the man, but she also knew Barron's heart was always full of compassion. She responded with a calm, understanding tone. "Barron, sometimes people go through hard times, but there's not much we can do." But Barron wasn't convinced. He felt a deep calling to act. "Mom, he's hungry. I can't just sit here and eat while someone's out there struggling." Barron's determination was clear. His mother, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, nodded. "All right, let's help him." Barron quickly called over the waiter, asking to have the elderly man's meal sent to him. But he didn't stop there. His concern grew with each passing second, and he felt an overwhelming desire to ensure that the man didn't have to wait in the cold for long. Barron got up from his chair and headed towards the kitchen. He approached the chefs and staff, his voice steady but urgent. "Can you hurry with that order? Please, he needs it right away." The restaurant staff, taken aback by the young man's resolve, sprang into action. Within minutes, a steaming bowl of soup, a warm piece of bread, and some meat were carefully packaged. Barron thanked the kitchen staff and left the restaurant, his mother following close behind. As Barron walked across the street, the cool wind made the rain feel even colder, but his focus was entirely on the man. When they reached him, Barron gently tapped his shoulder, and the man looked up, startled by the gesture. Barron smiled and held out the food. "I brought you something hot," he said softly. The man blinked in disbelief. For a moment, he couldn't comprehend the act of kindness unfolding before him. His eyes welled with tears. "Thank you, son. I never thought I'd get a warm meal tonight," he said, his voice trembling. Melania stepped forward and wrapped a blanket around the man's shoulders, noticing how his thin coat barely kept out the cold. "You need to stay warm," she said gently. Barron sat beside the man, asking if he wanted to talk. The man slowly began to share his story. He had once been a skilled carpenter, working on projects across the city, but after his wife's passing, things had spiraled out of control. He had fallen ill, and without a stable job or family support, he had lost everything, including his home. Barron listened attentively, not interrupting, but fully immersed in the man's words. For a brief moment, the chaos of the city seemed to disappear as the young Trump son connected with this stranger on a human level. It wasn't just about charity, it was about empathy. Understanding the struggles of others, and being there for someone who needed it most. When they finished speaking, Barron stood up, his heart full. He turned to Melania, who had quietly observed the exchange. "I'm glad we helped him, Mom. I just couldn't walk away," Barron said. The man smiled softly, his voice filled with gratitude. "You've changed my night, son. I'll never forget this. Thank you both." Barron and Melania returned to the warmth of the restaurant. As they sat down, Barron felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. He didn't need recognition, and he wasn't looking for a story to tell. What mattered was that he had helped a person who needed it. The world was full of struggles, but even the smallest act of kindness could make a difference. Barron slowly pulled out a few dollars from his pocket and extended them to the homeless man. "Take this," he said, his voice gentle yet firm. The homeless man stared at him in surprise as Barron stepped back and smiled at his mother. "This world will be a better place with small but meaningful acts of kindness," he added. Melania watched her son with pride as he made the gesture. In that moment, she saw him carve out his own path and add value to the lives of others. "Barron, a person like you can make the world a brighter place." she said, trying to hide the emotion she felt inside. It's just a small step, Barron replied, but I think everyone needs to make little changes in their own world. As they finished their meal and prepared to leave, Barron noticed the homeless man smiling and thanking him from a distance. Barron didn't know it yet, but that small act had made all the difference in the man's day. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the dignity that Barron had restored. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of compassion to remind people they matter, Barron said quietly. As they walked out of the restaurant, Melania nodded, her heart full. In her son, she saw the promise of a future where love and understanding lead the way. Sometimes it's the quiet, simple acts of kindness that leave the biggest impact. Barron Trump's story reminds us that empathy, compassion, and